Hello and welcome to the Empower Couples Podcast, where here you get modern, non-boring relationship advice for you and your partner to communicate like pros, fight smarter, and stay on the same team no matter the challenge that you face. I'm one of your hosts, Aaron Freeman.
And I'm Jocelyn Freeman, but you all just know us as the Freemans.
And today we're talking about 3 underrated traits of a great partner.
So are you committed to being an average partner or one that they kind of can tolerate and survive with?
If you looked at some of your actions, it might seem that way.
No, if you're listening to this podcast, we would bet that you are committed to being a great partner, even if you can be honest with yourself and kind of say, well, I maybe haven't been the best partner in the last several months or a year. You're here listening to this because you want to continue to become this. And, you know, it can be so easy as human beings when we are in a long-term relationship, and especially for those of us who are married, it can be easy to kind of be like, I got you locked in, you know, and kind of unconsciously put in less effort, kind of coast, and it's almost like we can just become ordinary and do less than our best.
Wow. As you were saying all that, I was thinking about even my own experience, and it's kind of like we don't really notice the beliefs that are getting built up. And I think part of what you mean and what we mean by putting in less work is also about putting in less attention towards where you're being more passive and you're just letting kind of the circumstances, again, without you knowing, kind of create new beliefs. And if you're in personal development, new kind of filters about your partner that then can seem as if they take on your actual traits. Mm-hmm. So that's where this was really getting tied in. So rather than sort of defaulting into some traits of being like passive or uninterested or reactive.
Or boring. No, I'm just kidding.
We'd like to offer up 3 underrated traits of a great partner to bring your attention back to.
Exactly. Okay, so the first trait that is underrated is being resilient. Ooh. So when I think of being resilient, I think of a partner who embraces and leans into the challenges that all relationships present. Mm-hmm. And especially romantic relationships, right? So resilience is no matter what we encounter, I am going to lean into this challenge. Now, I know you'll speak to this a little bit, Aaron, but it doesn't mean that you don't have moments of breakdown, of feeling overwhelmed, of feeling discouraged. But there's this, I know as cheesy as it can sound, like this get back up, right? Like if you feel knocked down, you get back up. And like a resilience is, you know what? Even if we had a rough day yesterday, or even if the last month has been tough, I'm going to wake up tomorrow and I'm still going to be committed to showing up my best for you.
I hear some determination inside of that. I'm sure we could use different words, and these just happen to be the traits that we reflected on. So determination, and yes, I think to your point when you were sharing this, resilience as in I am determined to see the positive in this or stay committed no matter the challenge, as you said, does not mean that you don't allow yourself to feel the emotion that's there. And also might not happen in a millisecond. Mm-hmm. But there's a certain resilience, and I wanted to add my word of commitment. So resilience to me is that you stay committed to something bigger than your momentary feelings. Mm. So you're resilient to staying committed to your vision as a couple, for instance, or let's say your agreements. If you've done coaching with us, you've created your 4 power couple agreements, or you stay committed to practicing the skills that you've learned, maybe from this podcast, or at minimum, you stay actually committed to the things you've promised your partner. For many, maybe the last time you actually promised were your vows. And how many of them actually remember your vows, let alone stay committed to them? So there's a certain resilience there that does keep you in a direction.
Yes.
Committed to a direction of growth, no matter the emotion or the experience or the challenge that might be there. momentarily or, for a little bit of time.
Yeah, the last thing I'll say about this one before moving to the second trait is when I think of resilience, I think of someone who won't back down to the challenge. And you keep your eyes on the fact that your partner is not the problem. You're not the problem necessarily. Maybe some of your behaviors aren't working, but more so you are like, you know what? It's you and me against the challenge. Mm-hmm. And we are a team. And you know what? I'm not going to become just overly discouraged. I'm not going to become, you used this word earlier when we were talking about it in ourselves, is like a victim. And I know that word can feel strong, and we're not calling any of you victims, but you want to check out if there's ever a time or a season when you start to take on a mentality of like, oh, I'm just the victim here and there's nothing I can do. And I just hope things will get better. Right? Things don't just magically get better. A resilient partner says, I'm going to step up. I'm going to do what it takes. I'm going to do my part.
I'm going to grab my partner by the hand. I wanted to put that in there because you can be a resilient individual out in life and it's like nothing can get to me, but that's not quite the attitude in your relationship. Mm-hmm. You got to be a resilient teammate.
Yes.
I love that. Grab your partner by the hand and say, I know we're feeling some stuff, but we're staying resilient and committed to the direction.
I love that. Okay. Second underrated trait of a great partner is compassion. Mm-hmm. And this is kind of like softening the first one, because the first one is very much like, I'm a warrior and I'm resilient. This one is like, I am an angel. No, not really. It's compassion, right? It's being able to soften when your partner is feeling emotion, to empathize with them, even if it has to do with you, to want to hold space for them when they're going through something, as opposed to make it about you and kind of turn it into something bigger and like a disagreement. So compassion is very much about being in your heart for your partner.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking. It really is a direction of focus. I think all too often as partners, getting triggered or getting upset, having expectations on whatever it is, roles and responsibilities, the focus is usually on yourself and where you're not experiencing what you would like to, and how that is because of your partner or circumstances or family or friends or job. Put anything in there, and the direction of focus is really on yourself needing to feel a certain way because everything else and everyone else in your life lines up for you to feel that way, right? So there's not a lot of compassion when the direction is towards yourself. So to me, that was the biggest thing. Everything you said was exactly spot on. And it takes a shift in your focus to just noticing your partner's going through something and having that empathy, wanting to understand, and I think slowing down. I think being a little bit slower, not being so quick to have to respond or even come up with a solution. I think compassion oftentimes doesn't have anything to do with finding a solution or a fix. It's just being there. Sometimes it's just listening. So compassion, yes, as you said, is a softer, more feminine energy, where resilience is definitely a masculine energy. However, I think compassion almost takes more to be able to. Sometimes I think the true masculine traits are a little bit easier than the true feminine traits, at least for males, I would say.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot of strength to be able to show compassion and be more interested. For me to be more interested in what you're going through rather than focusing on myself and how I'm feeling, or what I feel like you're saying is making me feel, that takes strength. It takes a lot of emotional, I never said this word on the podcast, fortitude and courage to be able to have real compassion.
Yeah, and to really see your partner as this person that you want to support, and that like you have to be a compassionate partner, you have to remember that being human is challenging. And your partner likely has a lot going on for them. And so when they don't show up their best for you, when they, seem triggered, when they are responding in a way that doesn't seem kind, you don't respond back with a bite. You respond back with, oh, hey, how are you? What do you need? Right? It's like having this like you just connect to their humanity is kind of the way I'm thinking of it right now.
You want to drop a little hint on the couples workshop? Because we talk about compassion.
Oh, we do talk about compassion, right?
Like you're
love.
Surprised. Oh, yeah, we do.
Yes. Okay. Actually, so if you are in Arizona or near, or you've wanted to travel to Arizona for our in-person couples workshop, we decided to schedule another one.
It was so fun, and it filled up so fast that we're going to do one more by the end of the year before we have our child.
Baby,
so we're going to do one more because it was so fun.
Exactly. So it's going to be September 26th, and you can go to thecouplesworkshop.com. That'll also be in the show notes, and save your seats for that last in-person workshop of the year. Now, if you're like sad because you live like in Russia, because we do have people who listen in Russia or in Thailand or wherever it is that you live, and you can't maybe make the trip, then just make sure you read our book, The Argument Hangover. For those of you who haven't, go to theargumenthangover.com, and you'll get so much out of our book as well. We don't want you to feel left out as if there's nothing for you.
Well, and coming back to it, in the workshop, we do talk about compassion as one of the 4 elements of love, so we're not going to give too much away. But there is this interesting insight that happens, especially around compassion, is that you can have the desire to be compassionate towards your partner, but if you don't have the ability, your intent doesn't matter.
And so it's like, okay, do I need to up my skills, my ability to be compassionate when my partner is feeling something or going through something? Might be a skill you need to develop here.
Yeah.
All right, going into the third underrated trait of a great partner, this is consistency. Now, consistency, I want to be clear, doesn't mean perfection. It doesn't mean that you're robotic and you do things the same every single day. Like, oh, they know that first I have my coffee, then I go shower, then... No, that's not what we're talking about. We are talking about you consistently showing up the way you promise to be. That... if you are like working on something in your relationship, let's say you're working on listening, you listen to our podcast and you go, okay, Freeman said, like, let's focus on this. You don't just do it for a day and then you're like, oh, I forgot. Or, oh, I just got too stressed or I got too busy.
Oh, yeah.
No, consistent.
No excuses.
Right. No excuses. A consistent human being, when you commit to something, you do whatever it takes to have the reminders that you need. If you need to make it your screensaver, if you need to have sticky notes, if you need to have alarms that come up, that's what I think of when I think of a consistent partner, is like, if I committed to being something or working on something, I'm going to do what it takes so that I remember that.
Yeah, we did an episode a few back where we talked about integrity and integrity to your word. And I think that's where consistency also comes up, is that you keep to that. There's another distinction about honoring your word, and of course we love that part of the conversation, but consistency, showing up to be the type of person you said you were going to be, keeping to your word, and in this case, even what your partner expects of you. That would be another different conversation. We talked about expressed and unexpressed expectations. But if you really thought to yourself, how does my partner expect me to show up in my way of being, in my actions, the things that I've said? Really look at that and say, am I consistently showing up that way? And guess how you would know that? By asking them. Ask, hey, what is it that you expect of me? I'm really looking at how I can be the best partner I can be. What are some things you expect of me? And they might start with the activities probably and looking at the calendar, but I think eventually you can get to the place of what they expect as far as your energy, your focus, your tone of voice, your attitude, your presence, and really get a sense of what's there for your partner. And then when you can show up consistent to that, super powerful.
I think a part of consistency is self-awareness.
Oh, yeah.
And because I said consistency is not perfection or being robotic, when I think of a consistent partner, I think of someone who is also self-aware enough to acknowledge when you aren't your best. Right? So it's like, okay, I know I was like being really great for 4 days and then I got all cranky and stressed and I was reacting to you. And you say that to your partner. That is like, I think a great human being and a great partner is someone who's willing to acknowledge those moments that you aren't your best.
It makes me think of just being consistent to open communication. because that means you don't have to, as you said, show up like positive energy all the time, like nothing affects you. But if you're consistent to communicating when you were feeling down or you were feeling disappointed or things weren't going the way you expected or your energy was just low or that you were tired, whatever it is, I think also, like you're saying, consistency to a level of communication.
Ooh, one last thing. I think there's a lot in this consistency piece. I think that to be consistent, you also have to be like taking care of yourself. So when I think of a consistent partner, I think of someone who's also really good at saying when you need to go, hey, I need a minute for myself. Or, hey, I need some alone time. Or, hey, I need to go do some self-care. As opposed to just surviving and walking through life so stressed out and then you're not showing up your best. So I think a consistent partner, again, has that self-awareness and, to your point, communicates your needs, including that self-care and alone time.
I think one thing I wanted to say to finish all three of these out, because we talked about the three underrated traits of a great partner. First one being resilience, second, compassion, third, consistency. The thing with resilience I forgot to say that you kind of brought up here is that resilience does not have anything to do with forcing your way forward and suffering through something.
No. It is not about suffering.
Because sometimes I think of resilience in different aspects. Like if I was resilient to climbing a mountain in the winter, right? Or like running a marathon or a full triathlon, right? Like resilience, I'm going to be suffering probably. My legs and muscles. And if I'm on that mountain and it's cold, it's like there's parts that it's going to suck. So there's a certain resilience, like even though I'm suffering, I'm going to keep going. I just wanted to finish by saying it's not okay to suffer in your relationship. So I just needed to add that to the resilience, to the compassion, and then to the consistency. And no part of that should you be suffering.
No, all of these should be leading to joy, to connection, to fulfillment, right? And that's what we did this week's episode was about fulfillment. And if you haven't listened to that, as to the things that cause couples to lose fulfillment or fail, you've got to listen to that episode. But today was for you to get reminded, refocused on what kind of a partner you want to be, and just wake up every day committed to being the best, most authentic partner that you can be. And if one of these traits really stood out to you, make it an intention this week. Make it something that you're going to focus on. Hey, I want to be a more compassionate partner. Or, hey, you know what? I've been kind of being, passive and kind of a little bit like a hopeless. I need to be resilient.
Inconsistent, a little bit passive, so not showing up consistently.
Exactly. So you implement which one resonates with you. And we always love connecting with you. We love getting DMs on Instagram. Thank you to all of you who have been writing reviews. We read every single one of those reviews because they help us so much. And then we can't wait to see some of you at the Couples Workshop in Arizona in September. So make sure you check out thecouplesworkshop.com. And then also make sure you read The Argument Hangover. If you haven't ordered your copy, it's like, what are you doing? You got to read The Argument Hangover. But we love you all. We're so grateful for you. And we will talk to you on the next episode.